Hey everybody, welcome to Fantasy R&R. This is your host Ryan.
And I'm Rob.
And this is the Wildcard playoff round of the 2022 NFL season.
This is Fantasy with Rob and Ryan. Fantasy R&R.
All right, everybody, watch your butts. Let's get the Clinton rape whistle out. It is time for playoff football. Rob, I want to go through all these games, and we're going to talk about the second season. Shout out to them, secondseason.com. You can go there and register to do a playoff league of spread 'em or stack 'em, and basically what you do is you get to compile a dream team of fantasy players. You can spread them amongst the teams, doing one guy from each playoff team, and see who has the most points of the teams in your league at the end of the playoff run. Or you can stack them where if you wanted to, you could take the entire Bills roster and try to move on with that, thinking that they're going to go all the way to the Super Bowl. Rob, as you know, with a game like Seahawks at 49ers, you're wondering to yourself, why do I really want any of the players on these teams? But the thing people have to remember is when you're doing this kind of playoff picture fantasy football, there's a possibility that maybe someone like DK Metcalf is going to put up more points than Brandon Ayuk in this matchup, even though the 49ers move on to the next game. So let's say DK Metcalf scores maybe like 28 points, has a huge game, but they still end up losing to the 49ers. Ayuk maybe gets 6 or 7 points. They go on to the next round. He only gets 6 or 7 points. It's like 12 to 14 points. Let's say they get eliminated there. You would have been better off having a DK Metcalf that scored more and was a one and done than somebody from a team that's going to move on. So you got to get the most bang for your buck out of one player for one team. Now, you just put together a team. Talk about some of the players real quick that you decided to choose and why.
The league I've already established a roster for is the one that we're talking about, where we're selecting one player per team. Not easy. As we had known, we're looking at Miami without Tua. We're looking at Baltimore without Lamar. That makes those picks kind of not easy. So, for instance, as you were talking about with the 49ers, looking at them up and down, I really like what Christian McCaffrey has done since he's been to San Francisco. What's really nice is they don't have to lean on him all the time, and I do believe that they end up coming out on top against Seattle. Who are you looking at in that matchup there, Ryan?
So for me personally, I think the 49ers are going to take this. And that's how I'm going to do this. We're going to go through each game. Seahawks at 49ers, I think the Niners take it, ultimately. This is one of those games I could be surprised, but I think 49ers, even with rookie Brock Purdy, they're looking pretty good. They have a full roster and a great game plan, great coaches. Chargers at Jaguars. I'm actually going to take the Jaguars, and it's not just because I'm a hometown bias. We took out the Chargers before. I think we're playing our strongest football of the year, and the Chargers may actually be playing their most average football of the year. Austin Eckler seems to be the one really guiding them along, although Herbert's looked better since recovering from the rib injury. Dolphins at Bills. I'm going to take Bills. Giants at Vikings, I'm going to take Vikings. Ravens at Bengals, like you were saying with the quarterback situations, I'm going to take Bengals. I'm going to take Joey B. They were in the Super Bowl, so it's just one of those things where I think Bengals take that one easily. Cowboys at Buccaneers, this may be a little controversial because everybody knows how I feel about playoff Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady. You never count him out, but I do think the Cowboys, although they've been playing some bad football the past few weeks, I think this is the week they bounce back because the Buccaneers have been playing bad football all year and getting lucky in a crap division. So with that being said, 49ers, Jaguars, Bills, Vikings, Bengals, Cowboys, I would probably want to build my team off of that. Now, the number 1 and 2 seeds obviously being Chiefs, Eagles, you have to keep them in consideration as well. But again, for the purposes of fantasy playoff football, remember that you're not going to get a game this week out of the Chiefs and Eagles players. So it's something to think about. But if you really think that the Chiefs and Eagles are going to end up in the Super Bowl, you have that game where none of these other playoff teams are going to be allowed inside that one conference. So if you really think the Chiefs are making the Super Bowl for the AFC, and you really think the Eagles are making the Super Bowl for the NFC, maybe you stack your team with those players because you think they get that one extra game on the ass end, and now they're tied in the number of games they played. With that being said, I like what you're saying about, McCaffrey. It seems like if the 49ers are going to win, we know he's been strong all year. That would be one of my first picks from that team, is putting Christian McCaffrey into my lineup at running back. Now, how many running backs did you say they're doing now? We get 4?
4.
So that's a pretty easy decision. I mean, for me at least. Now, looking at the quarterbacks, I've got to say, you know how I felt about Patty Mahomes for a long time, and you know how I feel about Jalen Hurts. I am inclined to take Mahomes and Hurts, but I really do think Hurts is going to kind of take a back seat. He's going to be under a lot of pressure. So I don't know if you think this is crazy to not take one quarterback from both divisions, but I'm almost thinking I go with Patrick Mahomes and I go with Josh Allen because they're probably going to be in a shootout in the AFC Championship. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, honest to goodness, if you've been listening to this, you know how much I love Travis Kelce. So just as quick as I was to get McCaffrey, which honest to goodness I think was my second pick, my first pick was Travis Kelce. I do believe the Chiefs have the best option to do it. I believe there's no other tight end better than Travis Kelce. And as you're saying, and I agree with you, I think it's the Bills or the Chiefs making it to the Super Bowl in that division. So I'm going Kelce when it comes to Kansas City. And then on the flip side, like we're talking about, I'm going Josh Allen as one of my quarterbacks. And then to extend it a little further, like you're saying with the Eagles, I'm willing to take a chance on the bye. And I believe I'm going Jalen Hurts because as we've been talking about all season, and you were the first to kind of bring this up, whether it be week 2, week 3, week 4, whichever on this podcast, you were saying, I think it's Buffalo Eagles.
Right.
So that's my take. It is one from each division in the quarterback to meet in the Super Bowl. I'm placing my bet on those two quarterbacks making it to the Super Bowl.
Sure, and it's definitely a valid take. Did you agree with most of my pick'ems, like the wins and the losses, or do you have some other ideas there?
No, I'm pretty much with you on that one. Like I said, 49ers I think is going to take it. I think that could be a good game. I'm going Jags. It's very similar to them against Tennessee. And as you're saying, I believe the Chargers are crashing. They just lost against Denver. Yes, we lost 2, but that was week 8. Now Mike Williams might not even play, so I'm going Jags with this one. Horrible rush defense, hence why I'm taking ETN as my Jag. Minnesota Buffalo. No, excuse me, not Minnesota Buffalo. Miami Buffalo. Going Buffalo. Giants Minnesota, I think is going to be a tough one. I know they just recently played. I really don't like Kirk Cousins. I really don't like Daniel Jones. I'm going Minnesota on that one. Going Cincy against Baltimore. I think that's a slam dunk. And then I'm going reverse. I'm actually going Tampa against Dallas. Why, you ask? Because Tom Brady is 7-0. All-time against the Dallas Cowgirls. Mm-hmm. I think there's just a little magic left in there. That Dallas game last week where they lost, I just think Dallas, again, is another team that you and I were talking about. Let's watch the other shoe drop. And it's dropping, and it's dropping quick. And I think classic Tom Brady is going to come out on Monday night.
And it's a great take. And here's where I'm going to go with this. Is I think my roster is going to look a little different than yours. But I'm, like I said, I think the Bills are going to the Super Bowl. And I do think that the Eagles are too. It's funny how many, pundits are starting to agree with that this late in the season. We must have said it on the podcast like week 2 or 3 or something. So, I would like to see that. But also, looking at the makeup of the Eagles, I'm kind of scared to take any other running backs because you don't know if it's going to be Gainwell or Hurts running it in or Boston Scott or Miles Sanders. So I'm actually going to go with James Cook of the Buffalo Bills after Christian McCaffrey as my second running back. I think he's going to make a splash kind of the way Devin Singletary did late in the season last year. They're going to switch up their game plan just a little bit, surprise these teams, and I like how that's looking. Now, Raheem Mostert might be a good volume play for one game. They're going to lean on him with the QB situation, the Dolphins, but I'm not crazy about it. You know me, I like to see if my players can go a little bit further. Thinking that we are going to have a Jaguars win, my third running back is going to be Travis Etienne because I think he can put up 20 points per contest if the Jags win this week and then move on to next week. And that leaves me with one NFC running back and 2 AFC running backs. So I'm a little bit of a spread 'em guy. And again, even though I think the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl, my next run-of-the-mill decision here, I guess, is Tony Pollard. Because I do think that the Cowboys are going to win this game. And I think he's going to get more volume than Zeke. 2 AFC quarterbacks for me, Mahomes and Allen, and I hope they meet in the AFC Championship and put up 30 each. And I've got Christian McCaffrey, James Cook, Etienne, and Pollard. Now, this is where it's going to get interesting because I do want A.J. Brown on my team. I think he's going to be useful for the Eagles. That's my first pick here. Who are some of your wide receivers that you took?
My wide receivers that I took off the top of my head, I know I got Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Again, that's just because I'm thinking to myself, I would like to say easily they should make it through the first round. I picked Tyreek Hill. That might change again. This whole picking one per team actually gets a little tough there at the end.
Yeah.
And then CeeDee Lamb. But again, I'm talking about, I did this right before the podcast really quick, just kind of selecting a few. It's easy to select your slam dunks, and then suddenly you're left again with Baltimore and Miami and even Tampa. In Seattle.
Sure.
Oh God. And, I'll probably do that. It's the tight end. Like I said, once I got Kelce, I started looking at other tight ends just cringing. So those were my 4 wide receivers. Might change just a little bit again before game time come tomorrow.
This is where I'm not sure what to do with Patrick Mahomes and his wide receivers, but for my wide receivers, I'm seriously thinking it's going to be A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, Stephon Diggs, and Justin Jefferson. And remember, we're doing the stack them right now. I might do something different and spread them, but those are going to be my 4 wide receivers. Now, tight ends, for me, I think this is a no-brainer. Going to take Kelsey, right? We're going to take Kelsey, and we're going to ride him through the AFC. That's what you got to do. Now, the question here on the other side is, do you take Kittle or Hawkinson as your high-floor tight end in the NFC? Because I'm not sure how I feel about Goddard and Brown and Devontae Smith putting up points on my team. So here is where this is going to get a little controversial. I feel a little bit better about Cousins throwing to Justin Jefferson and Hawkinson. So that's going to leave me with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, James Cook, Travis Etienne, Tony Pollard, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, Travis Kelce, and Hawkinson at tight end. Now my kicker, I got to say, I think at this point, if I really think the Bills are going to be in the Super Bowl, it makes sense to take Tyler Bass as my kicker here. On the flip side of that, the better defense throughout the season, the playoff season, is going to be the Eagles. So I'm going to have the Eagles defense kind of backing up what I've said about Hurts all year. They're just a complete team. So you add that on Bass and then the Philadelphia defense. I think this is a pretty good lineup here, and we'll see what happens. Everybody, this is a secondseason.com. It's absolutely free. You can sign up, make 2 different types of leagues. We do this every year. It's going to be fun this season, and obviously, me and Rob, we may change our picks at some point, and we're going to be talking more, I'm sure, later tonight or tomorrow about what we did for the spread 'em versus stack 'em. But this is a great way to have fun playing fantasy football throughout the playoffs, and as you can see, it's a much different type of strategy than you would employ in DFS or your regular season play. But again, everybody watch your butts. Let's blow that Clinton rape whistle. Let's jag off. Rob, I want to hear your thoughts on this Chargers-Jaguars matchup. You are going to the game.
Yes, I am beyond thrilled. Let's go Jags. I was there last week. It was electric. I saw what 70,000 people in TIAA Bank look like, and it was glorious, and I can't wait to see it again. I believe, once again, as I was just saying, this is another instance where one team, in my opinion, from what I'm watching, is falling while another team is rising. Real quick, a crazy statistic from last week against Tennessee. When Tennessee was 6-2, and the Jags had just lost to Denver in a heartbreaker in London, a horrible game, and they were 2-6, the Jaguars had less than a 10% chance to make the playoffs, and they're in. And that tells me the Jags are flying high right now. I believe the Chargers are going to come from the West Coast come game time. They're saying that we're looking at temperatures of around 40 degrees. I think that is a huge plus for the Jags. I know we play in Florida, but we've seen cold weather. It was cold last week. LA, they don't know what cold weather looks like. They have Eckler. For the most part, let's be honest. Yes, Henry ran over us last week a little bit like he usually does, but we kind of stopped him in the second half. If we can take Eckler out of the game and be up by a decent score come around third quarter, I truly believe the Jags have the chance to take this. I'm going score prediction here. I'm going Jags 30-20. By the third quarter, Eckler, I think, gets phased out. Mike Williams has got, yet again, another injury. Keenan Allen, all it takes is one hit with him, and that guy's sitting out. We know how this works. The one thing that you and I were talking about that concerns me is the tight end play, because for whatever reason, Tennessee's tight ends were running all over us last week. Let's go Jags. 2 words, Jags win. Let's jag off. Ryan, what do you got?
All right, well, right now I'm with you with the momentum. Like, everybody thinks that the Chargers are getting going right now. Listen, they were 10-7. We were 9-8. There wasn't that much of a difference. Week 3, what was it? We beat them 38-10. We saw the Jaguars go on, a 5-game losing streak. But now I think the Chargers, although they're a little bit healthier with Herbert, they're going to have some missing pieces, whereas the Jaguars are playing their best football. I know it's against some bad teams, and I get it. The Cowboys moved the ball in the air. The Raiders moved the ball in the air. Jared Goff moved the ball in the air. And we did good against teams that can't move the ball in the air. Tennessee with Dobbs, Houston, who's been playing, musical quarterback with Davis Mills and Driscoll. But I think that right now what you're saying makes sense. If we eliminate Gerald Everett, if we keep our best players just kind of covering Keenan, Miami, Hurts, Allen, we have a great chance to shut down Herbert's attack, and we can focus more on Eckler. Now, our defense has changed a little bit, and we have some solid rushing linebackers at this point. If I had to just go off the logistics of football strategy, I'm going to go with Doug Peterson in this game, and I know that they've got the Chargers probably at like -2, -2.5 over the Jags, but I think it should be the other way around. I'm actually going to go with 27-21 Jags win. I think it's going to come down to, Herbert is going to throw some TDs. Eckler's going to get in the end zone, but I think we're going to stop him when it matters. And our kicker, Riley Patterson's been doing much better lately. So I think when we get into field goal range, we don't have to be scared to take those chances, take those kicks, as long as it's within 30 to 40 yards, and it's going to be a fantastic matchup. I'm so jealous that you get to be at this game in the Box Club, just roaring for our Jags. I'll be here in Boston, repping the gear, got my Lawrence jersey on. I'm going to go ahead and say, 27-21, Jags win. They're going to move on. Let's jag off. Rob, any final thoughts on this matchup or the playoffs?
Yes, actually, there's one thing I forgot to bring up, and this is why I'm going ETN in this second league that we're doing here for the playoff run. The Chargers are one of the worst rush defenses in all of football. I mean, that's another thing to take into consideration. Like, I would not hesitate looking at ETN's numbers last week, who, mind you, Tennessee was very good against the run. And to push it a little further, why I do believe the Jags are going to win, and I'll leave it at this, is Trevor Lawrence had probably one of his worst statistical games this year, missed Zay Jones wide open in the end zone. We know that. This score in Tennessee should have been way higher, and we should have blown them out. There were things, whether it be, maybe it was the noise, they just weren't used to it in Jacksonville. I've been to many games this season where I'm looking at more opposition fans than Jags fans. It was so cool to finally see a stadium full of teal, and everybody was so excited, and then just the way that game ended, I really believe we have a chip on our shoulder. Like, as you said, I think we're 2.5-point underdogs in this game, yet for some reason when I'm watching ESPN, they'll think the FBI says the Jaguars have a 61% chance to win this. That math doesn't add up. Jags are winning this thing. We're moving on. Let's go, Jags. Let's jag off. That's all I got, Ryan.
That's right. That's going to be the story of the season, the second season, if you will. Once again, everybody, this was Fantasy R&R with Rob and Ryan. We'll see you next time.